In a small village, there was a boy everyone used to laugh at. Not because he was funny, but because he was poor. His clothes were old. His shoes had holes. And every day at school, people reminded him that he was nothing. They believed he would never become anything in life. But years later, those same people would look at him with shock and regret because the boy they mocked became someone no one expected. This is the story of a boy who refused to give up. The boy's name was Daniel. Daniel grew up in a tiny house with his mother and younger sister. His father had left when he was very young, leaving his mother to work 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. Some nights, dinner was just bread and water. Other nights, there was nothing. Daniel knew his family was struggling, so instead of complaining, he promised himself one thing: one day, I will change our lives. But dreams are easy to say. Reality is much harder. At school, Daniel was often bullied. Kids laughed at his clothes. They mocked his old backpack. Sometimes they even refused to sit near him. One day a classmate said something that Daniel would never forget. "You're poor. People like you never succeed." Those words hurt more than anything. But instead of breaking him, they lit a fire inside his heart. Daniel realized something very early in life. No one was coming to save him. If he wanted a better life, he would have to build it himself. So while other kids spent time playing video games or hanging out after school, Daniel did something different. He studied every single day. Late at night, when everyone else was asleep, Daniel sat under a small lamp reading books. Sometimes he was so tired he could barely keep his eyes open, but he kept going because he had a dream still. Life kept testing him. When Daniel was 16, his mother got sick and couldn't work for several months. Bills started piling up. Food became even harder to afford. Daniel had to make a difficult decision. He started working part-time jobs after school, cleaning stores, delivering newspapers, carrying heavy boxes in small warehouses. He worked during the day and studied at night. Some days he slept only 4 hours, but he refused to quit. One evening, after a long day of work and school, Daniel walked home exhausted. When he entered the house, he saw his mother sitting quietly at the table. She looked worried. She told him the landlord had given them a warning. If they couldn't pay the rent soon, they would lose their home. Daniel felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. For a moment, he thought about giving up. Maybe those people at school were right. Maybe someone like him really couldn't succeed. But that night, Daniel made a decision. He told himself, I may be poor today, but I will not stay poor forever. And from that moment on, he worked harder than ever. Daniel focused all his energy on one goal: education. He believed knowledge was the only thing no one could take away from him. Months turned into years. Slowly, his hard work began to pay off. Daniel became one of the top students in his school. Teachers started noticing his dedication. One teacher even helped him apply for scholarships. And then one day, something incredible happened. Daniel received a full scholarship to a university. When he told his mother, she cried. Not because she was sad, but because she knew all his sacrifices were finally worth it. University life wasn't easy. Either Daniel still worked part-time jobs, but he kept pushing forward. Graduation day finally arrived, and Daniel walked across the stage, holding the future he had fought so hard for. Years later, Daniel built a successful career. He wasn't rich overnight, but he was stable, confident, and proud of how far he had come. One day, he attended a school reunion. Some of the same people who once laughed at him were there. They looked surprised to see him. One of them asked, "How did you become so successful?" Daniel smiled and said something simple. "I never stopped believing that my future could be different from my past." At that moment, they realized something important. The boy they once mocked had become the strongest person in the room. Life doesn't always start fair. Some people begin with advantages. Others begin with struggles. But where you start does not decide where you finish. Hard work, persistence, and belief in yourself. These things can change everything. So if life is difficult right now, remember this story, because your story is not finished yet. And whatever happens, don't stop. If this message touches your heart, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next inspiring story.